a sunny day, surrounded by the gods of cloud and infrastructure, sits Sherman Crancer, a former Microsoft executive who dedicated his life to helping partners achieve greatness. Working 90 hours a week, wired directly into the mothership, learning, watching. On a sunny day.
All right. And then Mel, can you go check to see if it's on? Oh, perfect. That's LinkedIn Live? Wow. All right. We're connected. It's actually working. This is good stuff, man. I think it's actually going to YouTube as well. On YouTube Live. We'll see if we got anything going on there. Trying this all out today. Eric, I like the background. I looked at that last night. That's kind of cool that you actually were able to create a background to put onto this. I was about to download it, but I just didn't want to have like maybe two different cameras. The social live thing, it's just like, there's ones. We have another camera actually on Andre's that I can do Snapchat on, Snap camera, right? So I was thinking of putting him as always the guy who has his face blurred out, right? So now it's like the unknown questions from the unknown partner, right? It's the partner who doesn't want to say who they are. That'd be cool. Awesome. 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 Yeah, it's and we'll be starting here in about 5 minutes. We're just getting everything kind of situated. So if anyone's joining via LinkedIn Live or YouTube, we'll be on in just a few minutes. So we're just hamming it up, chopping it up right now. Actually, why don't we just test out a 3-shot right now and have Eric and Daryl in there. Yeah. Uh-huh.
That way Sherman can hit the dump button if we say something he doesn't like.
Yeah. So now this is just, this is the 3-shot. And yeah, there is a 3-second delay on that sucker.
So do you guys actually see something? Because all I see is green. Oh, there it is. Now it's popping up. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just, and for anybody who's jumping on here from LinkedIn, we will be starting in about 6 minutes. We're just kind of getting started here, making sure everything's working. I got these new black covers for the iPods, or I don't know, AirPods, the AirPods. And
yeah,
it's super cool because you can kind of, it doesn't look like I'm wearing an earring, you know. Sometimes you walk around.
they stand out otherwise.
You're accessorizing with your sport coat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is going to be fun, man. I think this is going to be great. I think we're going to have, I mean, there's some really great questions here. I think both of you guys are going to be really get a chance to really provide some real impact and ideas for the partners, and also Eric and Daryl, you guys should get together probably after this. Daryl, Eric's group does those really complex Office 365 migrations, and then just Eric, just for your Daryl, director of cloud solutions for Groupware, $300 million company, huge, big VAR / now cloud solution provider. Right.
Yeah.
So,
where are you guys located, Eric?
We're some of us are in Arizona, some are in California.
Just a tiny bit, so
we do a lot of virtual stuff.
Gotcha.
Been at it a long time. 21 years now. Too long.
And then we can go to, there's the second shot.
So when I click on these videos again, is it going to start from the beginning?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Because it started playing it even before I sent it live.
Okay. Well, yeah. It's just, I guess, click do it right away. Yeah. And actually, what I would do is go ahead and take us off the free shot and remove and remove all of the graphics, and just go to profile or standard. Yep. Okay. Perfect. All right. Send that one live. All right. Yeah.
Whoa, the app was crashing. I was like, no, not like this.
All right, we're going to get started here in just a few minutes, about 2 minutes after the hour. No, yeah, I was just texting in the chat part. Got it, Melody. Got it. Okay. All right.
Do you want me to put just like a Crancer group picture with you in the top left right now?
No, let's give it 2 more minutes and then we'll get started. All right.
You got any motivational quotes for us, Sherman? We'll wait here.
Let's just do this. All right. Yeah, let's get this started. Let's go ahead and roll tape.
On a sunny day, surrounded by the gods of cloud and infrastructure, sits Sherman Crancer, a former Microsoft executive who dedicated his life to helping partners achieve greatness. Working 90 hours a week, wired directly into the mothership, learning, watching, coaching, believing in something greater than possible, he created the Microsoft Partner Super System. This system uses a systematic approach to help partners transform into the partner of tomorrow. His partners grew at an average rate of 42% year over year, and in FY19 produced over $900 million in revenue. The Crancer Group manages a select number of Microsoft partners each year. Contact the Crancer Group and see if you qualify for consideration to be managed and transformed into the partner of tomorrow.
Many partners we work with are very frustrated with working within the Microsoft ecosystem. They're frustrated with how do they sign up for the right programs or get the right incentives. We specialize in helping those Microsoft partners get into the right programs, ensure they're in the right incentives, and put them on a path to grow at least 40% year over year. Next, we actually install a marketing machine program that helps our partners put together a very strategic go-to-market strategy that will put in place a way that they can drive 10 net new opportunities every single month. We look forward to talking with you, so please give us a call. Hi, good afternoon or good morning to those who've joined us. My name is Sherman Crancer. I'm the president of the Crancer Group. I want to say thank you so much for joining us. Today is actually our last session for the year. We actually are now live on LinkedIn Live. We're actually using a new platform. Furthermore, we're actually on YouTube Live as well. And we're trying to figure out, what is the best way that we can actually interact with the partners and find a much easier place for them to, be able to get to, right? So thank you so much for joining us today. This is going to be fantastic. We also have a couple of housekeeping items just to talk about. Moving into next year, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that each one of our partners are actually invited to our Microsoft Teams, our actual Microsoft team for the Crancer Group partners. This will then solve those issues with having multiple calendar invites. So we'll be calling each and every one of you just kind of over the next few weeks, just making sure that you have access to the actual team site. And then we will then move to making sure that it's much easier for everyone to have a place to attend. But you can always go to us through, it'll be LinkedIn Live now, and it'll also be through, YouTube Live as well. So today, connect with us. Please, go to our YouTube channel. Really want to make sure that you do that. And also make sure that you connect with us through the Crancer Group so that we can, make sure that we continue to update you on the latest and greatest things that are kind of happening to us. We want to, basically be here as a, real provider of not just ideation or bringing in great partners to talk about that. But we've got a lot of great stuff that we want to make sure that we continue to share with that. So I think what we're going to move into is actually the agenda here. We kind of talk about that quite a bit, right? Is the agenda. And, we have a section 1. We're going to kind of do the did you know? It's really, I'm changing it into thought leadership today. And then we're going to go into business development and to the industry's future. So that's kind of what we want to do. And then actually, let me go ahead and back up a little bit. I do want to get to actually introducing our speakers today. And I can't go too much further than that, right? We got to get our speakers in here. So we'll go ahead and bring that up here in just a second. We've got 2 really fantastic speakers that are coming up here. Just one second. Just go ahead and go to one shot. Okay, and then click on me. Yeah, send that live. Perfect. All right. So our very first speaker that we have today, we're going to go ahead and show them here. But we have 2 people here. We have Eric Van Bibber, and we also have Daryl Harrington. Eric is the CTO of PriaSoft, and Daryl is the Director of Cloud Solutions for Groupware. So while he comes up here, Eric, would you mind just kind of introducing yourself, your company, what you do, right? And just a little bit about yourself. That'd be great.
Sure, I appreciate you including me in this today. Eric Van Bibber, CTO at PriaSoft, and we develop software that helps people get to the cloud or to upgrade their Exchange environments. We're very Microsoft focused and have been for 20 plus years. We do a lot of work with mid-market and very large enterprise situations, sometimes in the tens to hundreds of thousands of users. And so, we've held steady in that time, and, that's our expertise. So we get involved in everything around Exchange and messaging and now Office 365 from a software perspective. And we work with partners a lot of times for kind of the delivery too. So a lot of background there.
Fantastic. And let's go over to Daryl Harrington. Daryl, you mind just introducing yourself, your company, kind of what you guys do?
Yeah, thanks, Sherman. Appreciate the opportunity to speak today and join with the other partners on the call. So Groupware Technology is a leading IT solution provider. We're headquartered in Campbell, California. We focus on delivering infrastructure and cloud solutions that really help companies to achieve their mission objectives, really around transformation, more important nowadays than ever. Company was founded in 1992. We're grown to a $300 million company, a little over 150 employees. We really we serve customers across both SMB as well as enterprise space. And for those of you who don't know, you may have heard or seen across social media that Groupware actually joined forces with Trace3. We were acquired by Trace3 a few weeks back, and so we look forward to combining forces with them and really going out and providing top-notch solutions to our customers.
Well, fantastic. Thanks so much. I think both of you are going to be able to bring a bunch of different types of insights, I think, into this to this thing today. So let's go ahead and get into our thought leadership piece of the meeting. And I always like to kind of have a little bit of thinking here, right? Just thought leadership, just kind of how we think about things, how I think about things, maybe provide that to the group. One of the things I like to talk about is manifestation of your destiny. And I think, what does that really mean? And I think manifestation as well as projection. I think that's another thing. When I was younger, I remember when I was 19, right? My first job and summer job right after your first year of college. I was at this telemarketing company, right? I was just dialing for dollars, helping out. And it was interesting. I met this great couple, and they were selling Amway. and I had no idea what Amway was. I had no idea what a pyramid scheme was. And I was like, oh, this is so great. Let me come to you with a meeting, right? Make a long story short, I realized after 2 meetings that it was just a pyramid scheme. I was like, no. But the lesson I learned actually was from the gentleman, the husband of the lady that I worked with. He's like, hey, Sherman, you have to think bigger. You always have to think, ahead of what's next. And you have to put yourself in that position. It's too easy for people to just say, gosh, I really want this. I really want to do this. I really want to do something different, or I want to have a better job, or I want to be rich, or I want to be happy. But they don't really think about it. They don't do that. And so what he told me, he's like, Sherman, what do you want? What do you really want? What do you want next? And I said, it was kind of weird. I was 19 and I was like, well, I want a motorhome. I want to drive across the country, right? I want to go there and just kind of see everything. And he's like, great, I'm going to pick you up this Saturday. We're going to go look at motorhomes. And I said, really, Well, hey, man, I'm 19. I can't afford a motorhome right now. Come on. And he's like, no, it has nothing to do with that. He goes, we're going to put you inside that motorhome and you're going to imagine yourself driving that motorhome. You're going to actually see yourself driving that motorhome. And he goes, I bet you what's going to happen next is you're going to, next thing you know it, you're going to figure out a way to buy that motorhome, right? So fast forward, 6 months. No, I never bought the motorhome, but I learned the lesson, from this, and I took that upon myself to always have that, throughout the rest of my life. And what was very interesting is I think I bought my first condo at 24 years old, right? And what I did is I said, I got my first job in college. But I just started going to look at real estate. There's no way I can afford anything. My parents didn't give me any money. They didn't have any money. They're federal workers. They're really great people, but they didn't give me any money. But I just started kind of going around and just, going to open houses, right? And then what ended up happening was I figured it out. I was like, well, man, I can go get this type of loan. I can get this. And next thing you know it, I was in my first condo at 24. Then I thought within about a year, I was thinking, I want to be out of this condo, look at a townhouse. So I just started the same thing, this projection. Was I making enough money to do this? Heck no, I wasn't. But I kept projecting myself. Same thing. So next thing you know, bought a condo. Then, at 25, I was like, I need to buy a house. This condo and this townhouse thing, I don't know if I like this. How can I afford an $800,000 house, on making, I think I was making like $42,000 a year. But I kept projecting. And this is the idea here. You project, you put yourself in a position, and you end up just figuring it out. Next thing you know, I had 1 house, 2 houses, 3 houses. I had 5 houses by the time I was 27. It's crazy. Just crazy. And also, I happened to luckily buy right in that beginning time, the big first jump, right, that we had like 15 years ago, right? And then I sold it. But that's been a thing all through my life. And what I wanted to kind of project to people here or talk to people about today and kind of the message, the thought leadership, is anytime that you want to do something in life, and we did this with building this company that we have, the Crancer Group, right? It's manifestation and project that we're going to be successful. We're just going to do it, right? And belief in it. But you have to think of yourself inside of these things. If you're in sales, you have to not just believe or hope that you're going to get a sale, but you have to project the fact that you've got to be confident that it's going to happen. You're going to do everything you can to figure it out, right? But you're going to project yourself in that place of being successful. Next thing you know, if you do that, good things just happen. They just absolutely happen. So it's really pretty cool. And I just want to kind of push that on there. I'm not trying to say these stories because I'm like, oh, look at me. Because I also had some huge downs, right? But the idea is whenever you're thinking about starting a new business, getting new contracts, doing whatever you need to do, believe in yourself. Project that you're going to be there. Like my friend did. He took me to a freaking motorhome, sales place, and we walked all up and down the motorhome. It's like, sit there, and you better, just believe that you're going to have a motorhome. It's pretty cool. Anyways, that's our thought leadership of the day. We had towards the end of the year. We're going to close this year out really, really strong. So, anyways, just want to provide that to you. All right. So let's go ahead and actually get over in our next section is going to be discovery. Okay, and what we're going to do here is we are going to take a look at these next few questions that we're going to actually go to. So let's go ahead and send those questions live, and I'll take a look at those. So we're going to go over 3 questions here. One is, every superhero has an origin story. What is yours? How has your customer profile changed, right, in the last 5 years? And then next is, share a story about a challenging customer that has changed the way that you do business. So those are the three things that we're going to be bringing on here. And what I'd like to do is we're going to bring on our guests here. So why don't we go ahead and go with Daryl. Every superhero has a story, right? You're a superhero, and we worked together for a long time. Tell us your superhero story. Where did it all come? How did you get into business?
Yeah, so I mean, when I graduated high school, it was a funny story. I mean, I always had a desire to get into engineering, and a friend of mine came to me and he's like, "Hey, have you ever thought about joining the military?" And I'm like, I don't think so. And he started telling me this story about, hey, we can join, the Coast Guard, and we can get on these boats and drive around and, carry guns and do drug enforcement, and pretty cool job, And I thought, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. I'm 18 years old. Why not? Right. So I went in a funny story, and I jumped in, and I mean, we were kind of going to go in on this buddy system. And so we go in, we do the test, we go through all the processes, and my friend never showed up. And I went in and I signed up, and I'm in and I'm done, and he never went. And so long story short, it was probably the best move I ever made in my life. But I spent 13 years in the military, spent a few years on boat doing drug enforcement. Really, I kind of looked at myself as more of a lifesaver, right? As really trying to fight the war on drugs, fighting or helping to save people's lives, out at sea, et cetera, and so forth. So, and then I got into aviation and flying on C-130s, and I did that, basically all around the country. And my background was electronics and engineering. Got into computers, doing some stuff. Got a bachelor's in computer information systems. And then, I really got to a point where it was, I was looking for something bigger and better. And I wanted to kind of continue down that path around computers. I got my first computer and started getting very interested in that. And next thing you know, I ended up getting went back to school, got certified, started in my days around Windows NT4. And if any of you have been around that long, you know what I'm talking about. So I got certified in that space and ended up getting a job in Silicon Valley and spent 10 years with a startup. Soon after that, my get rich quick scheme wasn't paying off with the startup, so I ended up moving over to Groupware Technology. Been with them now for 11 years, and I've really been focused on cloud technologies, I guess, probably right around 2010. And for those of you that have been around the Microsoft space long enough and are familiar with BPOS, which is the previous version of Office and M365, was Business Productivity Suite. That's where I started. And from that point on, started dabbling in Azure and getting more familiar in that space. And I've just, it's really become a hobby of mine. And I really just love and enjoy working around cloud technologies.
That's awesome. It's funny. Hold on, before we do that. My dad, I remember going to my dad saying I wanted to get in, be like a U.S. Marshal, a federal, just like what you're talking about. And my dad's like, no, you can't do that. But that's kind of exciting. You got to carry around a gun. You got to travel around places. That seems pretty cool. But there's not a lot of money in that, I guess, either, right?
Nah, maybe not at all.
Great. Well, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and go over to Eric. So, Eric, tell us your superhero story. Where did the origins for you come in?
Yeah, I suppose I started with a keyboard in my hands very young, back in the early 80s. My dad was career Navy. Thanks for your service, Daryl. Appreciate that. And through that, got into technology as a kid and had a Texas Instruments computer. Then moved on to Commodore, just kind of went went all the way through there, and then I went in the military. I was in the Air Force for 3 years as a Russian linguist. Went in and got out of that and got home and just did temp stuff, just experimented with jobs and did all kinds of different things. I grew up making furniture with my dad, and then I did technical stuff. And so I had always been around the technical stuff. And then when I moved to Arizona in '94, I got a job in technology and started learning to write software and kind of took it from there. And so advancing then to kind of Priasoft, I was working at a petroleum company, and I was a highly paid consultant that was kind of a Swiss Army knife. And problems would come around and they hand it to me, and I'd come up with some way to solve that problem or fix something. And so I was just tied in the back room. Well, while that was going on, this company got acquired by a much larger company. We were about 1,500 people, and we got acquired by a 30,000 user petroleum company. Well, that prompted a technology problem of how to merge the technologies between the two organizations. And one of those technologies was mail. And this was Exchange 5.5 at the time. So this was 1999. And at that time, there were no tools. There were no processes. It was all, you figure it out as best you can, and everybody suffered. And one of my teammates was on the mail team working with that, and I'd walk by his desk every so often, and I'd see him writing scripts and stuff, and I would say, hey, why don't you try this or that? And after a little while, he said, hey, man, you keep coming by and giving me tips. Do you just want to help me on this or what? And I was like, oh, sure. Yeah. What are we doing? And so we dove in on that together just to solve that problem. And having the development chops that I had, I started writing some utilities and stuff to help with that. And so that's how we started. And we looked at each other and said, we cannot be the only ones that are suffering from this. And so we said, let's try to make something out of this. So about 2000, we said, hey, let's make a little company and see where we go from this. And it was a hobby thing at the time. We didn't really understand what it could be. And we were still getting paid through our consulting work. And we had this on the side. And then we had that first bubble in like 2003, 2004. And things started to turn down. And so we said, you know what, maybe we should do this full time. So we did that. We rebranded it as Priasoft and kind of grew it from there. And so we've been in and around that problem of either upgrading or merging companies for 20 plus years, and all the complexities that go with that, and usually in the larger enterprise stuff, because that's where we started. So a lot of our background came from, those large enterprise problems, which are sometimes quite unique, even just because of the quantity of data. The task may be simple, but you're dealing with tens of thousands of records of information and trying to figure out, well, how do you present that to a user so they don't get lost in it? A lot of that comes into the decision making for us, in the tool sets and the methodologies. So here we are, 20 years later, still doing the same thing. It never seems to end.
That's an awesome story. I like that. I think both of you guys have some really, really original stories in there. All right, so let's kind of talk a little bit about the next question. I think this is something that is really good for everybody here. Is how has your customer profile changed? Right from 5 years ago, I think, to today. So with that, let's talk to Eric. Actually, why don't you go ahead and go with that one? How has your customer profile changed?
Yeah, the cloud's been the biggest part. Probably more than 5 years, right? If you consider where we started, most of that was on-prem. There was real cloud in the early. I remember BPOS. I remember something that was called before BPOS, Microsoft Management Suite or something like that. And it took a while for the cloud to really become a thing. So there was a lot of on-prem, activity. And then over the past 5 years, cloud has really started to take off. So that customer profile change, and one of the big changes that came from it was the move from, I want to do this myself because I'm paying, staff a lot of money on my IT staff to do this work, to I don't have any bandwidth for those guys to run this, so I just want somebody to come in and give me the result. And that's been a change that we have to react to is, we do a lot more work through partners now than we did with direct customers because of that change.
Now, let's just talk a little bit. Let me go back just a little bit. Now, I mean, one of the things I've always admired about what you're doing is, and I just want to call out, it's the complexity of the migration based on the size of the customer. So that's the change, right? Like you talked about how, it was more customers at first, now it's more partners. But can you kind of drill down a little bit more on this whole complexity issue and how it actually is a big benefit for the partners that you work with?
Sure. I mean, if you take it on the merger acquisition space, right, you're blending two environments that have been living apart on their own, doing their own things. So they have overlaps and conflicts everybody has a support mailbox, right? Everybody has a sales@company.com mailbox. Well, immediately you run into do those merge together? Do they run separately? And if so, who changes what? And so, the bigger you are, the more of the conflicts and overlaps you have. And even if you're just moving up to the cloud, when you get into those larger enterprises, the quantity of things that you have to bring forward, that stretches the timeline. And when you stretch the timeline, then you're in this coexistence period between two states that creates some frustration. So, having good tools is part of it, sure. But having a tenure of experience that you can draw on to guide either partners or customers, work backwards from a good result, I think that's something that comes solely from time in the field, time in doing this.
That makes a lot of sense. So, Daryl, let me go over to you now. Customer profile, how's it changed in your perspective or your opinion?
Yeah, I think alluding to, kind of tailing off of what Eric mentioned was really around, you look at what the traditional buying process is or was, I guess, 5 years ago, probably even less than that. But, you've got this new model, if you will, this new buying process that consumers, organizations are buying into, if you will. And so it used to be that, there was a long, lengthy process drawn out, right, for buying cycles. And now that cycle has really increased. It's much faster buying cycles. Customers are much more informed today. And so what that process really looks like is customers today, because of the way that digital marketing has really evolved and more information is at everyone's fingertips, if you will. The people, customers are going out there, they're finding the products, they're looking up the information, they're doing the research on their own, and they're educating themselves on the technology and the solutions. And so by the time that they come to us, looking for help around consulting, reselling services, etc., they kind of have already bypassed a lot of that pre-work that they used to do in the past, right? And so now that's really accelerated that process. And, when you look at what a lot of the hyperscalers are doing, specifically with Microsoft around the commercial marketplace, is solutions, ISVs, consulting partners are being able to now develop, whether it's software or consulting service offerings, and put them into a marketplace, if you will, to where consumers now can just go and purchase. I think what Microsoft has done is fantastic, because we can literally build professional service solutions, put them in a marketplace that has, it's either something that you may provide for free, which could be an assessment, or a fixed fee price, for a packaged offering, if you will. And now they can just go click a button and make a purchase. And the agreements are all there. Everything that they need is right there at their fingertips. So to me, that's the biggest change that I've seen with our customers over the last 5 years, if you will. It's really the accelerated buying process that cloud technologies has really brought about within the industry.
Great. I think that's some great insight. Absolutely great insight. And thank you so much. So let me ask you, let's kind of transition, and I'm going to take a little bit of a pause because I want to make sure that anybody who has any questions from the audience, we like to make this interactive. So please go ahead and put it into the comment section, and then we'll go ahead and ask, the actual audience or the actual those guest speakers for today. The last one is, is there a challenge? Is there a customer challenge that you've had, and a story of a challenge that you were able to understand and then actually bring a solution? And the reason why we're asking this is because I think we all have challenges, and it's kind of good to kind of socialize this so we can all kind of like think about, well, how did somebody else would approach that? Daryl, would you like to kind of start with that, the customer challenge?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know if I would consider this a single customer challenge, but more so kind of an aggregate, if you will. But kind of an interesting, approach that we came about with was, when we first got into the cloud space and started selling cloud solutions, doing resale of cloud, whether that be Azure, whether that be Office 365, or another cloud provider, is resale standpoint, it's a very easy transaction, right? I mean, you go out there, you take on the resale, you provision something for the customer, and you're off and running, and you got, these MRR streams that are coming in regularly. And okay, that's great. But, and you can start to build a business like that. However, that's only going to really carry you so far. And there's not a ton of margin in that space, right? So what you really have to start understanding is how do we provide more value to my customer? And so what we experienced was, we went down this path and started this resale program and started doing good, building a customer base underneath us, but realized real quickly that, hey, we need to do more here. We need to provide more value add to our customers. So how can we go about doing this? So what we did was, we developed a managed service offering that started providing more value to our customers. So not only am I going to resell you the solution, but I can provide you the professional services around that. And we're going to come in and we're going to watch your environment. We're going to ensure that we're helping to reduce wasteful spend, that we provide you with deeper insights into exactly what your costs look like, where are your costs, where are the majority of your costs being allocated at, and then how can we help to improve your cost, right, to lower your cost around making capacity reservations. And so we built a practice around that started providing more value to our customers. And I think that's really one of the challenges that we saw early on and shifted, if you will, and provided a solution to that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's really good insight. How about Eric? Can you share maybe a story that or a big challenge, and you're able to bring your expertise to actually figure it out?
Yeah, and it's happened over the past year, actually. So Priasoft is a software company, always have been. And one of the things that happened is the recognition from customers that we have a set of expertise in our arena. And about a year ago, we were approached by a large enterprise asking us, hey, we know you have this great software. We've evaluated it. We want to use it. But do you do services? And we're like, well, maybe, right? This wasn't our forte. It's not that we promoted and still don't promote, but looking at what was entailed and then also kind of examining, well, who else would they go to for this expertise? And we kind of realized it's a small pool of where they could go. And so we said, you know what, I think we can do that. So we dipped our toe into, unsure waters and went down the route of doing a services engagement with this customer and negotiated it, in an arena that we weren't familiar with, and we were successful there. Maybe a bit to our own surprise, we kind of thought, what are the unknowns transitioning maybe from product sale to services sale? But it turned out okay. And I think that's been our, something that's causing us to change our focus, is to go, what? And it goes back to your question about, the customer profile changing. Is so many people in IT are strapped for time. A lot of these organizations runs very lean, and they just don't have the bandwidth to do this work themselves, even if they have the expertise. And so I find more often now, especially when we ask the question, hey, we can offer some services here if you need it, but we're not going to push it on you and tell you that's the only way you can do it. But if you feel that's what you need, we have it. And the reaction to that has been very, very positive. So we're sort of morphing a bit, and we're balance that line, because we do a partner work and we don't want to seem like we're competing against our services partners. And so what we present ourselves in that case is more as a specialist, is, hey, add us as a subcontractor even, right? To where, this is something you may not hit all the time and it's very specialized, but why have to train up your guys on something very complex that you might only see once or twice a year? And so kind of navigating those waters and putting that together. But so far it's been all positive. And I look forward to more of that type of growth and providing that service. And we get great feedback, because one of the things we miss as an ISV is we don't get the field level field feedback, right? We make a software and a partner or customer uses it, and we have no idea sometimes if the concepts we put in the tool are valuable or frustrating, because we're not using it. And so it's been valuable to do some of these project level work, because then we kind of get to use our own products in a delivery situation and kind of go, oh, that bad idea from a product idea, and then we morph it and then make the product better as a result. So that's what I would say has probably been,
that's awesome. Thanks so much.
Challenging situation that we're going to turn around.
So actually, Mark Benton had a question. Who's on our meeting call here? He mentioned, I think someone mentioned digital transformation early on. Can we get an example where this was the customer objective and not just the byproduct of the effort? Would either one of you like to tackle that one?
I can certainly say that in my space. Oh, go ahead, Daryl.
I was just going to say, sorry, repeat that for me again, Sherman.
So it says, I think someone mentioned digital transformation early on. Okay, so can we get an example of where this was the customer objective and not just a byproduct of the effort? So I guess maybe more of people coming to you about digital transformation as opposed to just a byproduct of.
I mean, from our perspective, I mean, with especially this year with COVID and everything that's taken place, I mean, what we've seen is a huge push where before we were just having customers talking about digital transformation and how to go about that process, but they weren't really pulling the trigger on that. And so what we've seen more so this year is customers that have accelerated that process, right? And cloud has really been a big push for that, because customers are realizing having to shift from that, on-prem workspace to that remote workspace, if you will, to how do we go about doing this in the proper manner and ensuring that our workers have the tools that they need and being able to provide security around your data as well. So what we've really seen is a bigger push in that space. And so I think that as they come to us, we see at the same time customers that have these applications on-prem that are these monolithic applications, and they really need to start figuring out, okay, in order for us to be able to transform our business, to provide more value to our customers, to be able to speed time to market, to build agility and into their processes of development, is they have to be able to take those applications that have been built in that monolithic fashion and be able to push them into more of a microservices or a container model, or even serverless for that matter. And so that's where we're starting to have a lot of conversations in that space, is to literally start that transformation process, not so much being a byproduct of another conversation. I hope that I'm answering your question correctly, and maybe Eric's got some feedback on that as well.
Actually, why don't we do this? Why don't we just hold on for that, because I want to get into business development here because of the timing here. We really done some really good work already. Let's go ahead and get over to business development. And actually, we're going to be asking our first question inside of business development. And the three things that we're going to be actually looking at are what makes your business, or what is a top sales and marketing tactic? How do you work with distributors to help grow your business, and what challenges have you experienced as a VAR? Why don't we start with I want to go to Daryl actually on this one. Let's talk about the VAR situation, right? I mean, Groupware as you are, right, is primarily VAR, right? I mean, primarily, let's just be frank, right? And there's a cloud, shift to cloud. So can you kind of help us understand what you've done to really make that shift into cloud?
Yeah, I mean, I've had several conversations over the past years with multiple other VARs out there, right? And I think the biggest challenge that we see is, when you are a VAR that's in kind of that reseller/SI space, such as Groupware, the challenges that you're faced with is when you're bringing emerging technologies or something such as cloud that is different than what your traditional sellers are used to selling, it can be a big challenge. And it's, these guys are used to doing, these quick single transactions. They get paid up, where you recognize revenue up front. They get paid out on commission on, against that revenue, against the GP. And so that's a standard model for, a typical salesperson. And so when you look at starting to shift to try to sell cloud, which is a different model from a recurring revenue stream and or services, then that becomes a bit of a challenge. And so we've experienced that, as well as many other VARs out there in the industry. And so there's been a lot of talk and chatter around, okay, how do we make this shift, right? How do we get our sellers interested in selling cloud and services instead of just going after what they know, right? Because everyone's comfortable with what they know. They're going to stick to that model. And so we've gone through this for several years, and some of the salespeople picked up, they start to learn and figure it out. But for the majority of the sellers, it's a challenge, right? And so they don't feel comfortable in that space, and so they need to make, there needs to be a change, right? It's a culture shift. And so what we did was we finally decided that, okay, we're going to develop a cloud sales team, a cloud only sales team. And so we did that. We went out there, we hired some people. We developed a training program that puts them through the foundational training across multiple cloud providers, but specifically to Microsoft and M365, and build that foundational base for them so that they can go into the customer, have a fairly highly intelligent conversation, and then bring in their engineers when they need backup. And so that's kind of how we approach this. I think that, from what we've seen so far, this has been great. We go out here, we drive some campaigns and start taking those leads, throwing them at these guys and letting them go run with it. And so that was our answer to that problem, right? And then so we've just kind of started rolling that out here over the last few months. So really excited to see how that's going. And, Sherman's been a big proponent of that and a big help with that as well. So really kudos to you guys for the help with that.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Well, Eric, I'm going to ask you this one. What is a top sales or marketing tactic that you feel like you could share with the group?
So for us, and it started many, many years ago, was product demonstrations. You call them customer immersions, we call them product demonstrations. Ours is a complicated topic, right? Email migrations, there's a lot of moving parts. Whether you know it to be complicated or not, it is a complicated thing. And we found early on that we would struggle with a sale if the only thing we were doing was having phone calls and passing documents. It just was too much of a concept to digest that way. And so we switched to our funnel is qualify the lead and immediately say, hey, let's get you into a product walkthrough. Let's show you what this product can do and what your typical end result could be in a live scenario. And that way they get comfortable. They see the result first in a setting that is controlled. And then from there, they can say, gosh, I want that result. And I saw that result, and I know there may be some differences in my environment, but I saw it. I saw it in an environment, so it's real. And, if you have any complicated type of situation, for me, I can't see not doing some sort of product walkthrough or demonstration, to transfer some of that early knowledge to them to help them make good decisions.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a really good response here. Daryl, I'm going to ask you this next one about the distributors. How are you using distributors to help you build your business?
Yeah, so probably a year and a half ago, prior to that, we ran all of our cloud business direct. And so as many other partners on the call probably are aware, if you've been in or are in that direct model, there's some challenges there, right? I mean, there's all the certifications you got to maintain. There's the competencies. There's the support that you have to maintain. And so a lot of that can be a challenge. And then, of course, Microsoft's done a great job building up the new Partner Center environment dashboard, if you will, that's encompassed all of these 10,000 portals that they had out there. So that's been an improvement. However, prior to that, I mean, it was very challenging. You had to go to all these different portals to do everything. And so, what we realized about a year and a half ago was that there was value add in us really taking more advantage on our distributor partners, and that we were already using distributors from a reseller perspective, but for us we were able to negotiate extended terms, so that was great for us from a financial standpoint, because it's no longer were we having to act like a bank, and so that made a big difference. Marketing and sales and technical enablement that we're able to kind of feed off of what the distributors are able to help out with in that perspective. The scale of resources. So, I've got a team of solution architects that I work alongside of that, we're out there doing projects day in and day out, but at some point you start to get overwhelmed, and how do we expand and continue to go and drive that business? Well, that allows me to be able to scale my bench with additional resources and or partners out there. And then contract vehicles, we don't necessarily hold contract vehicles, around the public sector. And so we're able to kind of lean on them as being that primary for contract vehicles. So those are just a number of few, advantages that we really get by working with our distributor partners.
That's fantastic. There's a question from the audience. Andrea LeBlanc asked, she says, hi, thank you for your preparation. You mentioned hiring a special cloud sales team. what mindset was important for you to find a cloud salesperson as opposed to any other salesperson? And thank you. Actually, I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about this, if you don't mind. And Daryl, you can agree with me, or we talked about this at length. We were talking about this at length. And so we consulted with Groupware, and we helped them to define the persona. And the persona, and forgive for all of us salty dogs, that have been in the business and longer term. Don't take this the wrong way. But the reality is, it's we got to change the mindset of how many deals that we're doing in a year. Okay, let's just first of all change that mindset, because that mindset is typically 4.5 deals in a year. That's really what it is for Microsoft partners. And we want to start thinking of how do we hire salespeople that are going to be bringing in at least 2 deals a month. Okay, now we're not talking fully managed deals a month. We're just talking about 2 deals, 2 something, right? We're going to really exponentially build our thing. So, the advice that we give, okay, when we're consulting companies to help build their sales teams, is you want somebody that's 2 to 3 years out of college, already had 1 job, okay? And the reason why you want to do that is you don't get a lot of bad habits, okay, number 1. Number 2, you can really, they're born in the cloud. The millennials or whatnot, they already have a lot of this technical acumen already kind of inherently just kind of embedded already in their DNA, right? So the getting them up to speed is a whole lot quicker. Plus, you can put together a great compensation plan that not necessarily breaks the bank with $120,000 for a senior salesperson, but you want to bring them in at around 40 to 45, okay, but with a huge upside. Okay, it's big, because you gotta. One thing you gotta be careful of is when you're hiring. Like, I'm priced out of the market myself. I'm just completely priced out of the market if you were to hire me as a salesperson. And plus, I'm tired. Like, if they want to look at me, I'm tired, man. I don't want to be sitting there making 20 phone calls, a day, 30 phone calls a day. So you have a little bit more energy, okay? And that's what you're looking for. You're looking, not that I'm discriminating against myself. So this way I'm not talking about, but I don't have the energy, and I don't have I may have the energy, but I don't have that energy to do that, right? And so the persona that you're looking for is somebody that's 2 to 3 years out of school, who's had 1 job, who comes from a very good school. That's what you're looking for, somebody who has a technical ability and somebody that you can train. And then you bring them in, and you're bringing in 3 or 4 for the price of 1. And then you really work the system. You create a total addressable market for them. You give them a very specific set of accounts that they go after, and they have to just go after these things, and they kind of have to go one by one by one. All right, let's. With that being said, let's go ahead and go into the industry's future here. I know we're kind of accelerating this just a little bit today. This is all new stuff to us. We're got a new platform here, and some great feedback from everybody here. So. Eric, let's ask you this one. What makes your business unique when compared to others? Because yes, you do compare. There's like 2 or 3 other companies, right, that a lot of people know about that do a lot what you do. So, how do you differentiate?
We don't go out of our way to differentiate. I think that's the first thing. We focus on what's good for the customer and work backwards from there. And that tends to translate. We look at it. What is a good enterprise end result? What would an enterprise customer want as their final result, and how do we help them approach that? And that worked itself into the product with some differentiators. Not because we were chasing our competitors to be different. We've been here longer than most of them. And I think the primary piece, and it's a thing I mentioned on a previous, forum with you guys, was service. Although we're a software company, we put the customer support aspect, the technical support aspect, at the top of the chart. All of our software sales come with almost consulting. Because of the complexity of what it is. So we deliver it both with the training of the tools, but it's beyond just the tools. It's training for how to do a good migration in this case. So we look beyond just maybe what they're currently interested in, because a lot of times you get a little myopic on, I'm only concerned about people's mail because that's what I'm afraid of getting the negative feedback on. And then we can broaden that discussion and go, yes, you're right to be concerned with that, but there's these 6 other elements maybe that in your particular business that if you don't pay attention to them, you're going to get knocked down because of those, and they're going to blindside you because it wasn't brought to your attention. So, we stop just short of pushing the buttons for customers, but I think our biggest differentiator is our support. We take a very invested interest in every customer to guide them and say, hey, here's where the tools do good for you, and here's where you have to fill in some gaps. And we'll tell you quickly how to get there and what to watch out for. And so it's really in that service, in the customer treatment. We tell all of our customers, look, we're not just going to give you software in a PDF and say good luck. That's not successful.
Fantastic. Daryl, why don't we go to you on that one? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, when we look to kind of, I guess, differentiate ourselves from others, in the industry, I think that there's, we are a full service provider, full service solution provider, and I think where our value really comes in is that, as a traditional VAR, we have very deep expertise around the data center. And so when you take that and you combine that with cloud as well, then now you're really talking about full end-to-end solutions that we're able to offer our customers. And so today you've got, it's not just a cloud approach, right? It's not just a cloud initiative for customers. I mean, the majority of our customers out there have workloads that needs to continue to run on-prem, as well as, take advantage of what the cloud brings. So I think that's one very good differentiator for us. Another being around, I mean, we have I like to say it's a world-class engineering team. I mean, we make a really big effort to hire very talented engineers because there's a ton of value behind that. And I like some of these engineers that we've got on our team. It's fantastic people to work with, and some of the smartest engineers I've come across. And then third is really, I mean, we have a state-of-the-art POC lab, and some of the things that we're doing in that lab, I mean, we have an NVIDIA DGX POC program that is for AI exploration that we're able to help give customers kind of that try and buy, if you will. And so that really gives customers confidence that, hey, I can go out here and I can test and try and buy or test and evaluate a solution before I actually make that, long-term investment. So I think those really stand out for us and really help to differentiate us from other VARs out there.
That's great. We did have a question from our LinkedIn Live audience, actually, that came in, and it was, is your cloud sales team in your cloud sales team? Okay, I think we've hit a nerve with this, sales, which is good, which is really good, right? Were they able to target your installed base or only new business accounts? This is really good because a lot of people hire sales folks to go the installed base. But Daryl, what did we do? What did we make that decision to do?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously that's a big concern of everyone, and we definitely went back and forth with that as well as, how are we going to handle this? And so kind of the way that we approached that is we said, look, for the traditional sellers out there, they're going to continue to maintain those client accounts and continue to support them, throughout their cloud journeys, et cetera. For any net new business that would be coming in, we would be giving that over to the new cloud sales team. And the whole point really was we made an investment in educating these guys, enabling them, giving them, the tools and resources they need to be successful in selling cloud. So why would we not want to give that new business to them? So that's really kind of how we approached it. And as we go out here and we roll out different lead gen campaigns and things around various technologies, we gather those leads, and then we start distributing them out, and then the team goes out and drives it, and they've got an attached engineer that really is there to help kind of take the conversation to the next level, if you will. So I mean, that's kind of how we looked at it and said this is how we would approach it. If somehow there was a conflict that would come in, and maybe a customer says, well, yes, I want to do this in cloud, but I kind of want to do this as a hybrid model, and we still need to purchase some hardware as well, then there would be some sort of a collaboration between the two salespeople.
Yeah, that's excellent. And that's exactly what we talked about. It's all net new. It should be net new. Your install base, you already have people that you've hired to deal with the install base. They're protecting your accounts. It's all net new. And that's why we talk about defining your total addressable market. So you first have to define a vertical market that you want to go after. And then when you do that, then it's defining the top 200 accounts that are within a specific geography, within a specific spend, within a specific people base. And then after that, there's a whole methodology with those top 200. You got to be like a sniper. It's you got to just we make sure that we're hitting every contact, and we just keep going down and going through that. But then we also, by doing a 200 total addressable market, we now can then, it's not just one contact per company. We're thinking at 4 to 5 contacts in every company, especially if you're going up market, right? You're going to you need to find out who's got the political clout, right? Who's got the juice, who's out of favor, because you don't want to be pitching to somebody that will say, yes, 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 absolutely, this is an amazing deal, but they have absolutely no juice, and they take it up to their CIO or whatever. And they're like, yeah, no, so there's a lot to this. There's a lot of methodology behind it, but it should be net new. With that being said, look, we're at the end of this session today. I want to say thank you so much for Eric and for Daryl. We actually have their contact information up here. We encourage you to actually reach out to each one of them. Eric's great. He's got, if you have complex Exchange type of migrations, please talk to Eric. He's got some really good stuff here. And then, with Daryl, they're a huge VAR. They're a big cloud sales team. You can talk to Daryl about how he's approached, this sales team. So please reach out to him at Daryl@groupwaretech.com, and then, or it's eric.vanbibber@priasoft.com. Last but not least, please connect with us. We're going to go ahead and send this live. Once again, on LinkedIn, we have the Crancer Group, as well as on YouTube. Please subscribe to our channel, the Microsoft Business Channel Development Network. I call it MBCDN. Hopefully it was supposed to be this big, huge network we were going to create. Didn't really happen the way I thought, but that's okay, because we're still building it out, and doing this. So thank you, everybody, for coming today. Thank you very much. We're going to continue tweaking this. We're going to talk to each and every one of you, make sure that you're part of the actual Crancer Group partner team so that you will always be up to date. We want to collaborate inside of that. Yes. Oh, and our last announcement is we are actually done for the year. This is our last call for the year, and we're going to restart in January with some great stuff. But Daryl, thank you, and Eric, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time today. Really, really do appreciate it. For that being said, have a great afternoon, and